Hey everybody, welcome into Between the Tackles. Zach Cox, Doug Kide, Michaela Vernava. Gonna get into some draft stuff, a little draft analysis here today. I want to start though, Tom Brady at the Met Gala and a brief analysis of this man becoming more and more savage with age.
Yeah.
He is just out there rocking it. Some people think he's just trying too hard. You know, with the hand placement on Giselle, stuff like that. A lot of criticism of Brady, the way Brady conducted himself at the Met Gala. But from a fashion standpoint, I think he killed it. And his Instagram caption, I have to say, I think Tom Brady joining social media is one of the best things.
Whoever is handling Tom Brady's social media is damn good at his job, because
so you
I
don't think it's
believe
him?
it's actually Tom Brady. And maybe some of the time, but
I
I'm
think
pretty
I want to
sure.
believe it.
He's killing it approving these captions. I'll say that.
Yeah. So the latest was the I don't pop Molly, I rock Tom Ford. Numbers don't lie. Check the scoreboard. Some Jay-Z lyrics there. Yeah, I thought that was. When I saw that, I was scrolling through. I'm like, what?
I don't really know what the Met Gala is, but it seems like everyone dresses kind of insane at this. So I felt like they were a little bit conservative.
Yeah.
I think Brady could have worn
There's a theme apparently, and you're supposed to dress with the theme.
Okay.
So it's like the people who are dressed crazy and really weird and wacky are actually doing it right.
Okay.
Because it's supposed to be. I believe the whole thing benefits the Met's costume department or something like that. It's all supposed to be artsy and so they were sort of subtle.
a little conservative, a little subtle. I don't know. Brady's got to take some more risks.
Giselle's, I forget what designer it was, but Giselle's dress was sustainable. So she does her whole.
I don't even know what that means.
What
is a
I don't
sustainable dress
exactly know what that means either, but it's environmentally friendly.
Yeah.
Something. Like
I said, "Oh wow," not completely knowing what that meant.
Well,
I was like, "Oh, that's
I mean,
cool.
come to think of
That's
it, it's
impressive."
Green. It's green.
Yeah.
So sustainable.
Well, my favorite photo from that, I don't know if you guys saw it, the one here of Giselle and her
Yep.
friends making Tom Brady take the picture of them.
Instagram boyfriend.
Yep, Instagram boyfriend Tom Brady. Hey, we've all
Instagram
been
husband,
there.
I guess.
No one is below taking
Nope.
photos for some basics. So not even Tom.
Yeah.
So good stuff. Next on the agenda, I think I might be sliding this in. I don't know if I alerted any of you guys, but
Going rogue. Let's do it.
We're gonna break down the draft, and so let's start the draft recap with the fact that Bill Belichick took a day off. Apparently, the report that he was at a lacrosse game.
He didn't
in
take the day
Maryland.
off. It was the night of the third day of the draft. So he
So
went
he was there during
straight
the
from the
day.
draft to the University of Maryland Johns Hopkins lacrosse game, which that's a wild move to just be like, okay, Nick, you handle the undrafted free agents. I'm going to go to a lacrosse game. Like, I think that it was
game like 600 miles away.
Yeah, far away. It's not like it was in like Norwood.
He's going like a Holy Cross game.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that Mike Felger was kind of criticizing the Patriots or Belichick over this, and this is one of the reasons why he gave them an F in the draft, which I completely disagree with, but that's a crazy move to go to a lacrosse game and to just kind of, I mean, certainly he didn't ditch the draft, but you'd think that he would be in the war room, you know, calling up some of these undrafted guys, but I mean, to a certain degree, it shows how much trust he has in Nick Caserio.
The draft class was so small that it's like they're going to be bringing in all these undrafted guys.
And with how it happens too, I mean, we were
I
down
consider
there.
it a day off. Like when you just say that, he makes the
Night off.
announcement
I'd say
that
night
this
off,
is no days off. To me, that means around the clock. You're
gotta
just
take the
always
time when he
on.
can.
And he took the
Yeah,
time
because I don't
off.
think people realize how quickly this undrafted free agent stuff happens.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
we were all down there covering the draft, and basically as soon as Mr. Irrelevant comes off the board, the reports start rolling in of the Patriots have signed or have agreed to terms or whatever with this free agent, this free agent, this free agent. By the end of the night, there was more than a dozen. There were 15, 16 guys that had already been linked to the Patriots. So it pretty much starts right away, and Belichick's out chilling, watching some wax. I mean, good for him.
That might be part of it too, is that maybe he's starting to call these guys while the draft is still going on, because that does occur.
Yeah.
And the other point is, I don't know, I mean, you can have Wi-Fi and stuff on planes. You can call people at the airport. Maybe he's in his limo or something, calling some of these undrafted free agents. But at the same time, there are other people to handle this kind of stuff, and the draft is more important than undrafted free agency, even if you only have a 4-man draft class. So that is something that Nick Caserio and Monty Austin-Fort can probably handle without Belichick being around. They know what players they want. They know what players that Bill Belichick wants. Still a crazy move.
Yeah, because obviously, again, coming from Bill Belichick was what's so surprising. So is it confirmed? Do you know that the details logistically, he was there until the end of the draft and then skipped out?
Well, their last
pick, until they made their own picks.
Their own last pick was in the 6th round, so presumably he could have left after that, knowing that the Patriots weren't going to have another draft pick. But I don't know.
I didn't think much of it.
I don't know about the logistics
on Saturday and ended up hearing from Caserio instead of Belichick. But it was originally Friday night we heard from Belichick, and it was scheduled. I'm pretty sure that Belichick was supposed to talk with us after.
It's not atypical for Caserio to talk after a draft.
That's why. So it didn't. I didn't think anything of it. But then when I heard that he went to a lax game, maybe he's out scouting some lax bros that he wants to.
You got Chris Hogan.
I know. Yeah. So I doubt it. So he took a day off.
I don't know.
What if this is a sign of things to come? What if next thing we know he's in the Vineyard for preseason games or
Nantucket, not the Vineyard.
Yeah. Sorry. My apologies.
Can we
get on top of
roll
my
back on that?
You rewind that for me.
We're gonna get a stern email
Everyone
from Patriots
yourself.
Media Relations saying that we're spouting fake news about vacation preferences.
Oh yeah, well speaking.
Well, next thing you know, he will be at the Vineyard, not Nantucket. That would be the atypical move for Belichick.
Yeah, so that's
zigging when they think he's going to zag.
Yeah, I saved you.
So speaking of fake news, this is kind of funny. So we had a video up of the a little montage of Tom Brady at the Met Gala, and we headlined it. Tom Brady killed it at the Met Gala, and then yesterday, one of our producers, we were all like dying laughing because he kept just reading it as Tom Brady killed at the Met Gala. He was like, every time I see this in my mind, I'm thinking of the title as killed. So speaking of fake news, that would be a really bad rumor for us to.
You can say killed it without the it, and still kind of means the same thing.
Well, then you might think he was murdered.
Well, yeah,
I think you would say he killed
something
or somebody.
Yeah.
I think the it is implied.
Hooray.
Yeah, but no, I didn't hear it your way the first time. Yeah, Tom Brady killed at the Met Gala. Like, he's now dead.
Oh, killed as
I didn't hear it either.
Oh,
yeah,
I got you. Okay. Yes.
Anyway, I guess we should stop talking about fake news.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Let's get into the draft stuff. So Derek Rivers was the Patriots' first pick. You guys broke down a lot about him. So if anyone wants to hear more analysis on Derek Rivers, listen to the Football Word, which was
Monday,
the airwaves on Monday, hit the web waves on Monday. You can go back and find that on NESN.com. Let's start with O-linemen. The Patriots doubled up on offensive linemen in the draft, and their first offensive line pick, offensive tackle, Antonio Garcia. With the Nate Solder, his contract situation, Garcia, probably, what's your analysis?
I'll let Zach take this one since he did the film review on him.
This year would be more of a project.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to see the field much this year unless he really impresses people during spring camp or during training camp, spring camp, all of that. There is a chance that he could be the third tackle if he kind of unseats Cameron Fleming, but Nate Solder, Marcus Cannon are pretty well entrenched in those starting roles. But they do need to plan for the future. I mean, Nate Solder, one, he's getting pretty old. He's above 30 now, and two, he's going to be a unrestricted free agent in 2018, so after this season. So they do have to kind of plan for the future at that position. With Garcia, I like what I see. He's incredibly athletic. He didn't allow a single sack his entire senior year at Troy, but he's not the biggest guy. We've been talking, he doesn't even really look like an offensive tackle. He has really, really skinny hips. His lower body strength isn't great. He's not a great kind of drive blocker. Really good in pass protection because he can move, but he definitely has his limitations. I think he needs to put on, he said he's around 305, 310 right now, which is obviously pretty small for an NFL offensive tackle, especially one who's 6'6". So that's going to be probably the biggest thing he needs to work on. But if he can put on some weight, put on some strength, I think he really has the tools to fit in well in this Patriots offensive line.
And then the other offensive lineman drafted in the 6th round, Connor McDermott. So where does he fit into the equation now with also Garcia being drafted?
Yeah, this is a tough one because he's such a project right now that, you know, there is a question as to whether he will even make the roster, just because the Patriots do have Solder Cannon, Antonio Garcia, and Cameron Fleming. They usually don't keep around a 5th offensive tackle, so, you know, maybe if the Patriots are really intrigued by him in training camp, they'll keep him around. Maybe if there's an injury there, maybe if there's an extra roster spot somewhere else, there's an injury, they can keep him on, but that's a big-time project. He definitely lacks strength right now, especially in his lower body. When he's run blocking, he kind of just shoves guys. There's not a lot of, you know, keeping with his guy and driving him back and pass protection. He always kind of tries to come out of his stance a little bit too early, then gets himself turned around too much. Really, with an offensive tackle, your rear end, your butt should be facing the quarterback. His is like facing the sideline, facing the line half the time. So there's a lot of things to fix there, and there's no better coach to fix them than Dante Scarnecchia, but I don't know if all of the things that need to be fixed will be fixed by September. I don't know if the strength will be there. I don't know if the technique will be there. He has all the tools. He's a 6'8", 300-pound offensive tackle. He ran a 5.15. He's got great 3-cone, great athleticism all around. So that's why you take this guy in the 6th round, because those type of human beings just aren't widely available. But there's a lot to fix there, and I'll be curious to see how he progresses throughout the summer, because there needs to be a lot of progression with him.
And as far as these projects on the O-line go, I mean, it's obviously going to be very important as time goes on, and the question of how long will Tom Brady play, I mean, will have a lot to do with him not getting injured and not taking those hits. So, I mean, obviously, protection of the quarterback is always vital anyway, but I feel like even more so given Brady's age and everything.
Yeah, I think that was kind of an underrated factor of why Brady was able to be so effective this past season. Obviously, he had a great personal season, but the O-line was fantastic. It was so much better than it was in 2015. Brady was pretty much upright the entire season. He didn't even really take too many really big kind of painful hits, and the O-line protected him, which I think was why he was able to be as effective as he was throughout the season. So they need that going forward, especially because he's going to be 40 now, which
I know.
Is
I know when we talk about him, I say it like he's an old
man.
Man, like, oh, given his age and everything.
Still, I mean, 40 is old for any athlete. Like.
Absolutely. So they address that need, and then also the only other need really that they had coming into the draft in defensive ends, pass rushers. Rivers, obviously, which we touched on, and then Dietrich Wise out of Arkansas. What do you guys think of him?
He's another project, another guy where, you know, 6'5" human beings with long arms and weigh 275 pounds and are highly athletic. Those guys are tough to find, but Wise is definitely another project, and the ongoing, you know, issue here with many of these draft prospects are that he really needs to gain some strength there. He tends to get overpowered. He gets kind of thrown around at times. I think that's just another area where he needs to work on his technique a little bit. He needs to get his hands inside the offensive lineman. And these are all things that will come with NFL coaching and NFL training programs. They're going to gain weight. They're going to gain strength. And there's enough there that you can see why they took him. And that might be a situation like with Trey Flowers where it takes him a year to actually become an effective player. But I think he can be. I think that he's got the tools. He just needs to put it all together. And one thing that I really liked out of him is that he really can turn the edge. It doesn't happen on every play. It's not like Derek Rivers where he's not quite as good an athlete, but there are times when he gets to that kind of 45-degree angle and can turn the edge around an offensive tackle. And that's really what you like to see out of that type of player. I think that his run defense probably needs a little bit more work than his pass defense, so he's probably not a guy who will be on the field on early downs, probably for the first year of his career. But given his size, given his length, given his athleticism, his build, I think that will come when he eventually builds up that lower body strength.
And now I had seen some reports from scouting reports questioning Derek Rivers' toughness and saying that he takes plays off sometimes. How does that bode for Wise, just in terms of him maybe taking advantage of any practice reps that he gets to maybe assert himself, move up on the depth chart?
I mean, I certainly didn't see Wise take any plays off. I don't know if you saw Rivers really take plays off.
No, I didn't get that sense. I mean, I'm sure he did have a few, but I mean, even Myles Garrett was accused of taking some plays off in college.
Right.
But no, I mean, I didn't see anything on his tape that makes me think that he's that effort is an issue for him. I think maybe the fact that he was playing at an FCS level and he was clearly the best pass rusher on the field for most of the games he was playing in. He was playing against a lot of offensive tackles that have had no shot really of reaching the NFL. So maybe that's where some people get it from, the fact that he was just so much better than a lot of these players and made it look like he wasn't trying. But yeah, I mean, neither of these guys are rotation locks by any means this first year. I mean, the Patriots do have a need at defensive end, but nobody's going to be walking into a starting spot. So they're both going to have to work for it.
Essentially, do you guys have any level of concern over Rob Ninkovich? I mean, he of course sat out the first 4 games of last season, and then just wasn't quite what he
wasn't quite as effective, no, and he is getting up there in age. So, you know, if Rivers or Wise really do progress during training camp, during the preseason, if they can prove that they can be strong rotational players, then, I mean, I think Rob Ninkovich will be on the roster in 2017. I wouldn't call him a lock, though. It's not like you're talking about, you know, Julian Edelman or Rob Gronkowski here. He's already 33 years old. Like you said, wasn't quite as effective last year. So I think that that's certainly a question to be had. You know, he put up multiple, 8-sack season, 6.5. It was down to 4 sacks last year. Really wasn't getting the overall pressure that he usually does. So some of that is because he was playing a little bit more linebacker. He was dropping back into coverage a little bit more. But some of that is just age, and players tail off.
Well, we also have now Harvey Langi.
Harvey Langi.
Langi.
Harvey
Langi.
Yeah.
Langi.
Okay. I was struggling with that name here. Linebacker.
Yep.
The highest paid undrafted free agent that the Patriots have signed. So, he played running back?
Yeah, he's got an interesting story. So he began his college career at Utah as a running back. Then he took a 2-year LDS mission and transferred to BYU, where they turned him into a linebacker. So in 2014, 2015, he was playing linebacker. In 2016, they moved him to defensive end. That didn't go so well, so they moved him back to linebacker, but then BYU had a need at running back, so he moved back to running back for a couple games and actually had to switch his number in the process from 21 to 16 because Jamal Williams, the running back for BYU, already was wearing 21. So I watched so much film on this guy yesterday because there's so many BYU games out there for some reason. And it's almost impossible to find him on the field at times because sometimes he's playing linebacker wearing 21. Sometimes he's playing defensive end wearing number 21. Sometimes he's wearing number 16 and playing linebacker. Sometimes he's playing running back. So you really have to be like, okay, that's the guy, because there's also a 31 on their defense who looks pretty similar to him. It was a headache, but I like him. I like him as a player. I think part of the reason why he did go undrafted is because he did move around so much and that you didn't get that full season.
I had heard that Belichick was interested in this player if he had.
He's been linked to the Patriots for a while.
Yeah, if he had entered the draft last year, which that was going to be why I asked why then did they not draft him when they had the chance this year? They took the risk of.
Yeah,
it's
something we
Sorry
were
to
talking.
interrupt you.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
No, we were talking about this yesterday.
It
is a little interesting that if they like this guy so much and they snatched him up as soon as the draft ended, I mean, there's a chance that somebody. I mean, their final pick was what, 211?
Yeah.
There were 50-plus picks after that, or 40-plus picks after that, rather. There's a chance that someone could just take a 7th-round flyer and be like, oh, the Patriots are interested in this guy. He must be something. We'll snatch him up with a 7th-round pick. Yeah. There's a chance that could have happened, and it's kind of interesting that the Patriots would wait and then end up paying him even more than they would have if he was a 7th-round pick. So it's. What do you think on that?
I think part of it is that an offensive tackle is much more difficult to find in the draft, and those players are going to be overdrafted compared to a linebacker who played 3 different positions during his senior season. So because offensive tackles are so hard to find, because offensive tackles are so important, and because you might eventually need that replacement for Nate Solder, taking Connor McDermott and trading up for him to get that athlete, to get that body type on your roster is probably more important than it is to get Langi, even though I think that he has a much better chance to contribute in 2017 and maybe even 2018. So I think part of it also is that the Patriots just kind of know what teams are interested in what. They might know that teams don't really care to have a 6'2", 250-pound linebacker because there aren't that many teams who really have that type of player on their roster. So it certainly was a risk, and I don't know if I would have taken that risk if I were them because they liked him so much. But yeah, I mean, he had better 2015 tape than 2016 tape, and he wasn't fantastic at the Senior Bowl, so maybe that's part of the reason they kind of figured that he might go undrafted. But no, if that's a guy that you would have considered taking the first round after 2015, that's pretty crazy. Yeah. He's also a little bit of an older prospect, so that plays into it as well, because he did take that 2-year LDS mission.
And so the Patriots, you think, will be using him as a linebacker, correct?
Yes.
All right, he's not going to be sliding in on offense.
And who knows? He could be Mike Vrabel style.
Versatility, yeah. What is it that you like so much about him?
He's athletic. He's really athletic. During his tape at BYU, I think he was probably playing around 240 pounds because he weighed in at 252 at the Senior Bowl and he looked a little bit bigger and more sluggish. But he's a guy who can drop back into coverage. And there's not a lot of 6'2", 240, 250 pound linebackers that you can trust to line up at defensive end, shoot out to cornerback, and cause a pick six, which is one of the plays that he made against, I believe it was Michigan. It was against Boise State. So I just like his skill set. He's really tough, very strong, takes on lead blockers very well, caused some tackles for loss that way. I just like his skill set. Not the greatest pass rusher, which is kind of funny that they moved him to defensive end. He really only got by on his bull rush. So I don't know. He can play in all facets. I think he can play on special teams. Really fast for a linebacker, what the Patriots typically like. So I like him a lot as a player.
You're getting me hyped up to want to see this guy in action.
He'll be fun to watch.
He will be. Look forward to during minicamp and whatnot. So yeah, I'm excited to see him. Austin Carr, receiver. What do you think of him?
I would say Langi and Carr are the two most intriguing UDFAs of the group of whatever 18, 19 it was that the Patriots brought in. He's got a great story. He's a very Patriots type guy, and not just because he's a white slot receiver. He was a walk-on at Northwestern, sat out his freshman year, didn't play at all. Was kind of a minor contributor as a junior, sophomore. Then as a senior, he was the most productive wide receiver in the Big Ten. He led the Big Ten in all 3 receiving categories. He's only the second player since 2000 to do that. The other one was Allen Robinson, who now plays for the Jaguars. And he looked awesome. I watched a lot of his tape yesterday. He played in the slot and outside at Northwestern, did a ton. Most of his damage was on crossing routes and deep drags and underneath things. It was a lot of his best plays were when he lines up on the left and catches the ball on the right, all the way over the side of the other side of the formation. Because he's not blazingly fast. He's pretty quick. He doesn't have the Julian Edelman type jump cuts or anything. A lot of it's kind of funny to see him get as open as he did in college because his routes don't look great. They're all kind of rounded and just meandering, but they end up working. He finds himself wide open in the secondary. And it's not like he was playing at FCS or anything. He was playing teams in the Big Ten. He played some of his best games came against Wisconsin and Ohio State, who are top 10 teams. So there's a lot to like. It's going to be hard to break in on this receiving core because it's very, very deep. But I mean, you could potentially see him if he has a really good camp. Maybe even unseat Danny Amendola, who restructured his contract. And Amendola's getting older. The Patriots obviously like him, but if they believe that Carr can do what Danny Amendola can do, and he's 10 years younger almost, I could see them taking a chance on that.
Do you think that at least he would be hanging around the practice squad?
I'd like to think so. Yeah, I think we haven't seen him play yet. It's going to be a test of whether he can kind of replicate this against better competition in the NFL. Even though he was playing against Big Ten guys, NFL cornerbacks are a full step above that. I think he's a guy that they would like to keep around. He's also a guy that I think could get snatched up off a practice squad if he does have a good training camp. So long ways to go for him, but he's an intriguing guy. I'm excited to see him in action.
All right, I'm excited also to see the Hollister twins in action, just because I think it's really cool that the Patriots both signed 2 undrafted free agent twins.
I appreciate the Patriots just giving us 10 free stories.
I'll take it. When I first saw those notifications roll in, I was like, wait a minute. This isn't a common name, and I forget their first names.
Jacob and Cody.
Okay. They sound like they could have their own
I was just going to say, what was that? Cody, Jack and Cody, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Cody is a very child star name.
Yeah.
Hollister is a very...
the Hollister twins
sounds like Laguna Beach kind of name.
Yeah, exactly. So they could link up with Mitch Trubisky and just shut down television. It'd be great.
Yeah, one of them's a tight end, one of them's a wide receiver. The tight end, Jacob, I keep mixing these up. Jacob's the tight end. He definitely has a much better chance of making the roster because the Patriots, like they did with Langi, they also paid him a whole bunch of money comparatively speaking. I believe he's making $90,000 guaranteed, which isn't a lot for most players, but it's way more than most other undrafted guys are making. I believe his brother's making $10,000 guaranteed. Some guys are making 2 or 3. So it definitely means. I mean, the Patriots, like they are at wide receiver, they're pretty deep at tight end, but means they're.
If I'm in the driver's seat of the Harvey Langi bandwagon, I'm probably in the passenger seat of the Jacob Hollister, because I like what I see from that guy. He's a little bit undersized. He's 6'4", 239 pounds, I believe, which is on the smaller side for a tight end. But that guy can fly down the field. He was a great deep threat at Wyoming. Granted, he's not going up against the best competition. It is an FBS school, but still Wyoming. But he's really fast for a tight end. And I think that he could actually push James O'Shaughnessy, Matt Langle, Michael Williams, or Rob Hausler for a roster spot, just because he is so fast. He's got good hands, willing blocker.
Is he Hernandez type of?
Yes, on the field, yes.
Speed, that's what I know. Like, I hate to bring it up, but
he is.
It sounds like from the size and the speed.
I mean, the thing about
Hernandez type of game.
The thing about Hernandez that set him apart so much is that he had the agility of a slot receiver or running back, and Jacob Hollister doesn't have that, but he does have the speed to get downfield, which is something that's pretty rare for a tight end. He runs like a wide receiver, I'd say. He was like a 4.6 guy, which is actually pretty similar to Austin Carr. And when you're doing it at 6'4", 240 pounds, it means a lot more than if you're doing it at 200 pounds. So, yeah, I think that, not going to be the best blocker, but he is a matchup guy where a safety or a linebacker might have a little bit of trouble with him because of his size and because of his speed.
All right, well, we're going to have to wrap, but this has been fun talking about some of the new guys, getting some fresh blood in here in New England. Makes mini camp, but makes it more fun.
We'll see him on the field in a couple weeks.
Yeah. Ooh, football is getting closer. Yay.
I love it.
All right, everybody, thanks for watching Between the Tackles. We will be right back at you next week on Nesson.com. So keep it right here.